kind of had this thought, like, I don't know if you guys know, or if any of you remember when you were born. Do you know anyone that remembers when they were born? Can you imagine? I mean, can you? I don't remember when I was born. There's not a guy I know that said he remembers when he was born. But can you imagine if we had that kind of fine-tuned memory, and we would say something like, "Wow, man! When I was getting out of my mom's belly, I thought I was gonna end up with a migraine, or I ended up with a migraine coming out of her." You know what I'm saying? But we don't have those memories. We don't have those memories of when we were circumcised, if you were circumcised. Can you imagine if we had that kind of memory, that recall, being circumcised? Man, I remember when the doctor snipped that. Man, I was in pain. I was crying even more and more. No one has talked about when they were circumcised. No one has recalled when the moment they came out of their mother's belly. But yet, it happened to us, right? Isn't that a trip? But anyways, when finally our senses, we finally get to gather our senses, was it 4 senses or 5? And when as soon as we become products of education from elementary, then we become more of a mature mind into this. Let's say in my days we call it junior high school, but let me just say, when our minds are finally developed enough, we recognize street signs. We recognize what bus is stopping here at this bench. We recognize that, oh yeah, red light is when to stop, and green light is to walk, and the yellow light is just to be prepared. We're being educated. We're receiving information, and I'm sure in the duration of your youth, many people, many young, I know many in my generation, understood about church. I know many in my generation saw dramatizations of movies that depicted Jesus Christ on certain holiday events, like in Easter. They would have holiday specials about Jesus Christ. And I remember as a child, I would see those kind of movies at home. Even, do you remember the Charlie Brown Christmas? When Linus talked about, he quoted Luke chapter 2. He was describing the birth of Jesus. I'm sure the first time you heard that, you were very young. I remember when I heard that, I was like, oh, Linus is Catholic? But, that's just how I thought back then, because I was raised Catholic. But beside the point, going back to the topic is, I'm sure we have witnessed types of information that gave us a clue about God, right? In the home. I don't know what your upbringing may have been like. I know in my home, we were raised Catholic, and whenever there was a religious event or any type of religious thing that's happening on the calendar, all of a sudden we become sober and, very reverent because of the spirit of religiosity. But then again, it's still that we made, on some level, we were being made aware about God. So we grow up, we go into our more mature years into high school. We sow our wild oats. We're just full of craziness in our head, right? In my high school days, You know, no holds bars, being nutty and stupid, right? Then later in my years, later in my high school years, I would have close friends becoming Christians, inviting me to Bible studies. Now, if that happened to your personal life anywhere of anything similar, somebody all of a sudden becoming serious with God and wanting to invite you to Bible studies in your younger years, that's a sign. That's a traffic sign in our spiritual journey. How did we yield to it? And it's constant. It becomes ongoing, right? These signs from heaven, I would describe as reminders from God for our soul. To this day. And it's still